What's up? Juno here. And the person who I'm about to talk about is probably one of the most hilariously hypocritical people, or one of the most, that I have come across with on YouTube. And it's just immense, the amount of craziness and idiocy that he displays. Now, I've seen a couple videos on this guy in the past day or so by two people, one by Sarahan06 and two by Godless Haze, which were fantastic responses, and a lot of the stuff they said in those videos I agree with. But I found this guy a while ago, and his name is Von Helton. And I remember probably about a year ago or something, I found a video of his and I watched it and I was like, holy shit, this guy is just loony as hell. And sure enough, Sarahan's video yesterday, or a couple days ago, brought my attention to him again. I couldn't remember his name, and oh man. And he came out with a video titled Atheist Failure, and in this video, he is trying to bring up some sort of hypocrisy, or why atheists are not talking about Islam. Well, there's a couple reasons for this. One reason why I don't really talk about Islam, and I think this is probably one of the most important reasons, is I'm not very familiar with it. Sure, I could sit there and read the Quran and read a bunch of books on this and stuff like that. If I had the time, I would. But I barely have enough time to do basic things I need to do in terms of work schedule and stuff like that as it is. So I don't have time to sit down on hours on end to read up about it. So I'm not going to talk about something in depth on something I don't know about. I'm just not going to do that. That'd be a stupid thing to do. There are certain things that I do know about it, but even so, as an atheist myself, people practicing whatever religion in the privacy of their own homes, I don't really see a problem with that, to be honest. I mean, yeah, I would like to see people using their minds as much as possible and relying less on old fairy tales, yes. And I would hope more people would be waking up to various other discoveries and observations that we have in our world and move away from the superstitions. That would make sense. But this is coming from a guy, Von Helton, who is a conspiracy nutcase, and I watched a couple of his videos, and some of them are extremely long, but I sat through and watched all of them just to get what this guy was coming from. But you are completely hypocritical. At the beginning of this video, he talks about how atheists tend to bring up Christianity a lot, and he says, well, why can't they have their own opinion? Now, he claims to be a pagan, but in the videos that I've watched that he has on his channel, he seems to be sticking up for Christianity and having a lot of the same mentality and ideas that a lot of Christians who either are in high places of power or want to gain high places of power hold. So while he claims to be a pagan, and maybe he is, maybe he isn't, he seems to be sympathizing with Christians for some fucking reason. But in the United States, we have freedom of religion. That means you can be a follower of whatever faith you want, okay? You are a pagan. I am an atheist. There are Christians out there are Jews out there are Muslims out there are Sikhs out there are Hindus out there's various other religions out there. And in this country, we have the ability to follow a religion or not have a religion at all. And what really doesn't make any sense to me is, well, a lot of people have been making videos about the Park 51 thing and from various sides of the spectrum. Me personally, this is my short, simplified opinion on it. I don't live in New York. It really doesn't bug me, because if you look at the amount of Muslims that are in the United States, it's a very small percentage of the population. And what Von Helton here is displaying is, for some reason, although he doesn't really talk about Park 51 that much, he seems to think that less than 1% of the country, in the figures I saw, it said that there was roughly like 2.5 million Muslims in the United States versus the tens of millions of Christians. I mean, it's roughly somewhere between 75 and 80% Christian in the United States, or somewhere between 70 and 80% Christian. So, okay, that gets down to another reason. In the United States, while we are not a Christian nation by definition, the United States doesn't have a government or an established religion at all. We just have a lot of Christians that happen to live here. and there tends to be high densities of populations of various religions, even in countries that have a religious affiliation or some that don't. It doesn't matter. They're still members of the religion. No big deal. And why you're singling out a particular faith, what if, I mean, the reason why I think, at least in the immediate area that we live in, or the immediate society in the United States that we live in, I think Christians put our freedoms and those who are extremists that get pushed to positions of power are more at risk for getting stuff passed and legislation passed or lobbying to get stuff passed. I honestly do, because they are a high percentage of the population and they can get numbers to back them up, because gullible people will believe in stupid things. And if they say, and a lot of people vote with faith or on faith-based values, or they'll vote a particular way because this person is the same religion or a similar religion or a type of religion. That's a problem, okay? They're not looking at the issues, they're just voting on some arbitrary thing that really shouldn't matter in terms of governing policy. Our country is set up to be secular, and it should be, and there should be no religious influence from any side whatsoever being influenced in policies and laws that are passed. Plain and simple, end of story. Now, he tends to, in this video, ramble on and seem to think that even if the population of Islam increases in the United States, he seems to think that it's just going to run rampant in the streets. Now, I can probably assume that he's probably getting this information by reports, whether it be on TV or on the internet or anything like that, on reporting from countries where they don't have the same law structure as we do in the United States or many other Western countries. We have a very established, structured law system. In some countries where there's a lot of unrest and they're war-torn and stuff like that, the structures don't necessarily work, or they're not enforced to the extent that they are in the country we are. We're a civilized society. There's not war breaking out in the streets in every major city you go to. Sure, there are areas that are dangerous, but it's not as catastrophic as in certain other war-torn areas. So, I mean, and because of that, even if there are extremists, if they cause some sort of tragedy or if there is some sort of attack, they're going to have to, if they don't kill themselves, they're going to have to succumb to the legal system that we have in the United States. They're not going to get to run free or roam free. I mean, Christians don't get to do that. No one gets to do that. An atheist wouldn't be able to do that. It's just not going to happen. No matter what faith you are, it doesn't mean you're exempt from laws, especially laws that are designed to protect the population. Now, he is the type of person that is conspiratorial, thinking that there's a new world order, and he's against globalization. He seems to think that just a few people are, calling all the shots and paying off people and shit like that. So that's what we're dealing with here. Someone who's not entirely altogether upstairs. And moving on, he goes on and talks about attacks and saying how Christianity has kind of eased off and people aren't going to kill in the name of Christianity. Well, that still is not true. And while it may not be as publicized or as evident in the United States, in other countries, I'm thinking Africa, for example, there are armies of people out there that are killing in the name of Christianity. There are children in certain countries of Africa that have been declared witches by some arbitrary whatever reason, and they're being killed. I saw a video not too long ago, I wish I remember where it came from, of this, I don't know if he was a witch doctor or something like that, but he basically, there was this like 5-year-old girl, he said, if he seems to think that she's a witch for some reason, and people in the community seem to believe this guy, and they want to kill her because of this. And you're saying that Christianity doesn't kill in the name of it anymore? Give me a fucking break. It still happens. While it may not be happening in what we come on to, you and I as U.S. citizens in day-to-day life, it still happens in other places around the world. So, with the thing that doesn't make any sense to me here is Christians, you can leave them alone, but again, you want to infringe on rights of a certain individual who population-wise doesn't really have much footing in the United States, from at least what I can gather. Sure, they are around, and sure, they do exist, and they have places of worship and stuff like that, but, I mean, come on, that's just ridiculous. Painting all Muslims as extremists is just as ridiculous as painting all Christians as extremists, or painting all Jews as extremists, or Hindus, or Sikhs, or whatever, Scientologists, or it doesn't fucking matter. Now, what really pissed me off is he said that something to the extent of Christianity, or Islam has killed almost as many people as atheism has, slash communism, or communism slash atheism is what he said. And, you know, this really kind of is ridiculous, because you just got on saying that, you know, it's not done anymore, and then you go and say that, well, oh, he brought up Timothy McVeigh, and he said there's no proof that Timothy McVeigh is a Christian, or he did it in the name of Jesus. And then he goes on and does what many Christians do, and in terms of trying to attribute atrocities to atheism, just because certain atheist leaders of communist societies, you know, killed people. And he brought up Mao and Stalin and all that stuff. But you see, the thing is less than like a minute earlier you're saying there's no proof that Timothy McVeigh was a Christian, when there is. You're just not looking at the right sources. And because he didn't do it in the name of Jesus, therefore it doesn't matter. And yet just because there are some people out there that happen to be atheists, that were dictators and killed high numbers of people, doesn't necessarily mean they did it in the name of atheism. Can you point to a source that's not a crackpot conspiracy theory about this, please, if you see this video? So, I mean, come on, this is just ridiculous. And then he talks about it being like fascist, and he doesn't want to live in a fascist or communist thing. And what's quite ironic about this, and I think I might save it for another video, is he did a video talking about what he would do and how he wants to run for president. That's all I could do is laugh at that sentiment. You know, he is just out there. Well, firstly, I doubt the U.S. population is going to elect a pagan, and if you honestly think you're going to get elected just by people writing in your name, I mean, if every YouTube subscriber of yours voted on you, you have roughly just slightly over 5,200 or something like that. That still wouldn't be enough. But even so, you need a higher percentage. You need to appeal to the Christians and those who have values like that. And a lot of Christians, as soon as they hear pagan, give me a fucking break. But I'm not going to get into that so much in this video. I'll save that for later. But what it gets down to is it seems like he's expressing the same sentiments that a lot of these really religious Christians are expressing about this whole Park 51 thing. And I don't really want to be making a video exclusively on that. But the problem is, with this all of a sudden resurgence of and hate of Islam, I mean, look, I don't like Islam. I don't. But look, if you want to practice it and you want to reside in the United States, I see no problem with it. What really gets my goat is that people, a certain group of people, are all up in arms about a fucking, you know, the Park 51 thing, and a lot of people wouldn't care. Like, I almost got into a conversation with a family member over this, and I still want to follow up on it just to get the opinions of it and maybe even share it. But, you know, would these people be up in arms if it was a church, or if it was a Jewish temple, or if it was a Sikh whatever they go to, or Baha'i, or Buddhist, or whatever? It doesn't fucking matter, honestly. Do you live in the area? No, you don't. Who cares? I don't really give a shit. Let them build it. Let them express their freedom of religion. I don't care. The area is severely economically depressed. So honestly, if it's going to bring some revenue for the area and help improve the area, go for it. The building's empty. It was damaged when the whole thing happened on 9/11. Whatever. If they can fix it up and if it can start bringing revenue into the area, I'd say go for it. They have just as much freedom to practice their religion as anyone else. You are a terrorist's wet dream by being so anti-Islam about this. This will give them plenty of reason to get converts. A lot of people don't realize this, and you should really take a step back and think before you start recording a video. As Sarahan said, I don't want to rip off what they said, but Jesus fucking Christ, man. This guy is loony. Anyway, I'll post a link to his video so you can watch it as well. And I'll also post links to the videos by Sarahan and Godless Haze, so you can check those out in addition. Anyway, this has been Juno, bringing you another nutcase on YouTube. Do your part. Blaspheme daily.